y'all, it's CJ and we are here tonight to talk about Love and Marriage Huntsville. Tonight we'll be talking about season 3, episode 2, and I think they called this episode 47 Problems, but this land ain't one. And y'all always know we'll get into why they have called whatever episode the reason they called it. But before we start talking about this episode, which was a pretty decent one, it didn't give us a ton, but it gave us enough. Before we start talking about all that though, go ahead and hit that like button and also hit that subscribe button. I think the like button is on this side and the subscribe button is on this side. So, go ahead and handle that. And also, as always, make sure you tell a friend to tell a friend. Why? So we can all be friends, right? That's right. All right. So the episode starts where it left off. Well, I'm lying. It did not start where it left off. It starts a completely different day. We see Maurice and Kimmy. They are at the office that Maurice was building, I guess, last season or a couple seasons ago or whatever. And it looks really nice. But Kimmy is there because she kind of wants to touch bases with Maurice. She wants to talk to him about what went down at Letitia's graduation picnic. And she basically wants to make sure that she's not tripping, that she kind of wants to feel, validated for the way that she feels. And Maurice does agree with her. He basically tells her, they come to the conclusion that basically if Letitia expects for Kimmy to, coddle her or change just to please or appease her, that it's not gonna happen. And Kimmy was kind of glad that he does realize that she is her own person and she is not gonna sugarcoat anything just to make somebody comfortable. Even she's not gonna lie and do all that other craziness because that's just not who she is. And so we see also in like another scene, they're kind of going back and forth with one another, but we see Letitia. She's talking to Marceau and they are talking about the picnic. She says that it was a success in her eyes. And she was actually upset at first that Miss Wanda was not invited, but then she realizes in her definition that it was drama-free because Miss Wanda wasn't there. And Marceau kind of, he was glad Miss Wanda wasn't there. He intentionally did it on a day that she couldn't come, but he does disagree about it being kind of drama-free because her brother and her dad both kind of, tried to check him about some things. The dad brought up the other side of the tracks, comment. And then we had brother, Lil T or T-Man or TT. He brought up what he heard out in these social media streets about Marceau having an outside child. And Letitia says, I know that that's not true. She was like, they really need to stop putting so much stock into social media, because if that was true, I would have divorced you and I would have taken, everything you have. And she says it with a straight face, but I don't know if I believe that or not, but I definitely do believe that, she wouldn't just be extremely quiet about it if he did have another child. I don't think Marceau has an outside child. I will not say that I, think that he has been faithful, because I do think that he probably has done his dirt. He just has been, smart enough not to knock up the side chick or have one that wants to ruin his marriage, so to speak. But I do definitely think that he has dibbled and dabbled out there. It may not be like a whole relationship, but I wouldn't put it past him just because of how he has acted in the past. But they have obviously moved on from that, so I'll move on from it as well. Now, we didn't see Melody. Melody, she says, that lately Martell has been with the mess on social media, and I think she's referring to that picture that when he took baby girl to her first day of school and he said, 4 down, 1 more to go, the womb was still kind of fresh with the side baby and everything. And for him to put that out on social media, it did make her feel some kind of way. But she says that he's coming to get the kids today and she's going to put her game face on, and she's, I guess, not going to let him know that it bothered her the way it did. But when he gets there, she calls him outside and they sit down and they start talking about, her needing a little more consistency from him when it comes to these visitation rights, these visitation agreements. They have this visitation agreement set in place, but lately, Martell will not come and get him his week, or it'll be 3 or 4 weeks and he hasn't come to get him. And, she says that, this is kind of causing problems on her end too, because she has plans and things to do, and it kind of makes it hard for her to get her stuff done when they can't even come to an agreement on when the kids are supposed to be with him versus being with her. So she's sitting down and they're kind of talking, and she does bring up the social media posts and comments. They kind of go at one another because anybody that follows either one of them on social media, we did see at one point lately, I will say, Melody, she has not been as petty as she was in the past. Every here and there she will throw like a slick shot out and she'll say something, but she's been, about her music, about her business endeavors. She's really been kind of focused on that. And Martell, I don't really know. I don't really follow him. Who do I follow him on? I think I follow him on Instagram, I think, but I don't really see many of his postings. But I do see, every here and there. I see Ariane, she posts quite a bit, and it's always got something to do with a subliminal that she's throwing out about him, XYZ, but he's tied into it in some way, shape, or form. But anyway, they started debating, about him sticking to custody agreements. And I know that this divorce is so fresh that at this point, it's no telling when they will both be completely cordial with one another. So I guess we can expect to see a lot of bickering, a lot of going back and forth between the two of them. And hopefully they do come to a point where they can be parents to these children and not really focused on being, anything else. Let go of the hurt and the pain. I know 14 years is a long time for anybody to deal with somebody and then to not deal with them. I'm pretty sure it hurts quite a bit. But they start talking about these social media or these smear campaigns that the both of them went on, a few months ago. We saw the interviews with Funky Dineva. Shout out to Funky Dineva. We saw him going on an interview with, I think he talked to both they both talked to Dr. Heavenly, and we saw him talking to Steve Harvey. Mel talked to, Funky Dineva, and they were all kind of talking to different people, giving their sides of the stories and why things were the way they were. And they both had some pretty not so nice things to say about one another at one point. Mel tried to keep it cute for the most part, but at the end of the day, she had a husband who cheated on her and in turn created another life outside of their marriage with a woman that she asked him to stop dealing with years ago. And he, in turn says that she cheated on him, so he cheated on her. Now it turned into, it was a retaliation kind of deal. At first, she wasn't doing what he wanted her to do sexually, so he went to somebody else who was, and then all of a sudden she was cheating. So we still don't really know to this day the real reason. It's not a real reason to me. I think he just got caught, and Martell will never take accountability. He has a real problem with accepting accountability, and we'll talk more about that later on in the video. But anyway, they agree that we need an outside party to sort of show us how to co-parent, because right now the way we're doing it is not working. So he agrees to go to counseling, and Mel is kind of happy about that. So he comes back in the house because it's time to get the kids, of course, and Melody's mom is there, and she's not too thrilled to see Martell, as, I mean, I can't blame her. So he gives her this hug, and she kind of gives him the church lady sideways hug, kind of like off up in here, like around in here. So it was funny to see, and you could tell, I mean, it was written all over her face that she wanted nothing to do with him at all, and he could feel that. And they kind of talk, and she just kind of lets him know that she's not pleased with a lot of things that she's been seeing lately, because anybody, you know, with Facebook, Instagram, anything, Twitter, you could see, you know, it was getting ugly, and she didn't like what she was seeing. So he just kind of, in Martell fashion, tells her he was only doing what he did, you know, it was a reaction to Melody's actions, and you know how he always does. He's always gonna flip it, and there's always a reason why he did something. It's because somebody else did or didn't do something. So, you know, she, like anybody does, and I have a tendency, I will talk with my hands. I'm not gonna put my hands in your face or anything like that, because that's disrespectful, and I don't do that. But she dismissed the conversation. She was like, okay, you know, I'm done with this conversation. And this is what she did. It wasn't a, I'm done with this conversation. So he yells up the stairs, literally, all right, kids, let's go. Your grandma just threw her hand in my face, and I don't like that. I mean, why are you bringing the kids into this at this point? So she was like, really, Martell? I did not throw my, you know, but Martell, he don't care who he flipped the script on. I don't know. He is something else. But anyway, the kids come down and they leave. So then we see Maurice, Monster, and Kimmy. Monster, he's getting really, really big. You know, he has now graduated 8th grade. He's getting ready to go to high school. And they kind of ask him, you know, what are your plans for the summer? Well, Monster says he wants to get a job. And they were like, get a job? What you gonna be doing? And he says he wants to cut some grass. And his mama gonna get him a lawnmower, one of the ones you can sit in, and he gonna go make him some money. And they all kind of laugh and joke about that. It was like, well, you don't plan on working hard, I guess, but you plan on working. So it was cute enough. So they sit down to Zoom or Skype Kiowa, Monster's mom. And originally, the way it looks, like you only see Monster and Maurice, and they are talking to, Kimmy's there, but you know, Maurice is doing all the talking. He's kind of talking to Kiowa, and she's talking to him. And Kimmy just kind of says, hey, we're all here, you know, because Maurice didn't acknowledge her, or Maurice didn't let her know, hey, Kimmy's here also. And Kimmy kind of felt a way about that, because she says, you know, I feel like I ought to be involved in some of the decisions that you make for Monster. Yeah, you know, you're the dad or whatnot, but as his bonus mom, I feel like I should be a part of some of these decisions, because they were talking about his decision to go to a certain high school. I guess he's going to go to a high school that MJ is going to, and I think that's Marceau's son, because they're the same age. So they're going to go to the same school, and he says that MJ's been a good influence on Monster, and they just think that that's a good idea. And Kiowa, she just seemed like a very, very different Kiowa than what we have seen in the past. She was very, very cordial. She was, you know, she seemed calm, and she didn't have an attitude. She was like a completely different person. And as a matter of fact, she was happy to see Kimmy, and she told Kimmy and Maurice that she wanted to at some point have a sit down and talk to them. So they were kind of, why, because their last sit down, which was, I believe, like the reunion for had to be season 1, because I don't think they had a reunion for season 2, or did they? I don't know. But anyway, basically it was season 1, I think. And Kiowa was accusing Kimmy of being like the side chick and ruining her marriage, or I don't know what she was doing. But anyway, she just wasn't nice. She was like nasty, rude, mean. But this was a completely different person. And I'm very interested to see what she has to say to them. And I'm thinking she's probably going to apologize, and they're going to move on, and they're going to be one big, happy, co-parenting family. We'll keep our fingers crossed to see. But anyway, next we see Mel. She's at her office, and she gets a visit from Tiffany. Now, is Tiffany going to be one of the new cast members? Is this how we're bringing her into the show? Because Mel says that they know one another because they were both like members of the Chamber of Commerce, or they were on the board or something. They know each other through that. And she says how Tiffany basically is like this boss kind of lady, and Tiffany is going to help her find interns for Melody S. Holdings, or whatever her company is called. But Tiffany's going to help her find interns. And Tiffany also was once a divorcee, so they shared that. Tiffany's remarried since then, but she has gone through what Mel's going through now. And Mel says that it's kind of good to have somebody who has sort of, walked that path before, that you can talk to and get advice from, and just kind of, talk about your feelings too. So she thinks that, she would be somebody good to kind of chop it up with every once in a while, to unload or to kind of get advice from. But it was weird because she invited Tiffany to one of Destiny's events. She was like, I don't know if you know Destiny or not, but she's having this party or something. You should come. I don't know how that flowed. So I'm thinking that, okay, she's just a new cast member, because I saw some other people, but I don't really know what they look like. Y'all, I'm terrible about that kind of stuff. But I think that it might be her and her husband. But anyway, so I guess this is how we gonna introduce her. She still has to kind of get a little more comfortable, because I could tell that she isn't as comfortable in front of the camera naturally. I'm sure this is her first go round, but hopefully she'll loosen up a little bit, because she does seem a little uptight to me. But we'll see. I don't even know that lady yet. So next we see Martell, and he goes to see Chris. Chris invited him over, and Chris wants to kind of chop it up with him a little bit and go over some things with him. So Chris tells him that the 47 acres, it finally closed only after a year and a half. And he also lets him know that the developer reached out to him to talk to Melody about building some homes on the land. And so naturally, Martell was pissed. I don't really know why Martell was pissed, because Melody is the one that holds the builder's license. I guess Melody really was the brains of the operation, and Martell was the brawn, I guess. He had the brawn, she had the brains. And so he was pissed off because he felt like Chris should have come to him first, and he let him know, Melody she did not say yes. She, as a matter of fact, she told me that I needed to speak to you about the situation. I should have come to you first. And so he agreed with that, but at the same time, he was mad that his friend didn't automatically come to him first. And he just basically is questioning his loyalty at this point. He doesn't know where Chris stands. He thinks that, you know, I'm the one that got this whole thing started. You know, it was my land to begin with. I'm the one that found the buyer. And if anything, he should have been coming to me about anything. I should be the one doing all the building and everything because I'm the one, you know, me. And he just has that attitude about himself, like that the sun rises and sets on his rear end. But Chris was like, it's not even like that. He was like, you trying to make this personal, you know, this is business. He was like, yeah, you know, you're my friend, don't get me wrong, but I had to do what my client asked, and that was to talk to Melody about building houses. And so since obviously Martell doesn't have a builder's license, I don't know how he thinks he was going to put some houses on the land in the first place. But I don't know. Instead of just saying, okay, let me talk to my ex-wife, and since she does hold the builder's license, maybe she and I could work something out, because we know, you know, you're probably going through hard times right now. And at this point, you need to be taking any bone somebody can throw at you at this point. Because last week you were peddling body butters that you didn't even own. You were trying to push these products in Destiny's beauty supply store, and you hadn't even signed any kind of contract yet. So obviously you need this woman to help you. But anyway, it's the day of the counseling session, so Melody and Martell meet up. And side note, did y'all see them in the confessional together? So now I guess they were at a point where they could sit in the same room together and film. So I thought that was very interesting. And I didn't mention that last scene where he came to get the kids, they were dressed alike. They were coordinated. They weren't dressed alike. They both had on like purple, and I'm like, did y'all plan that? You know, what's really going on? Don't tell me y'all out here trying to pull the wool over our eyes, because I'm gonna be pissed off if y'all really, you know, sneaky linking on the sneak and then mad at each other on camera. I'm gonna be real mad about all that if that's what's going on. But anyway, they get to the counselor, and Martell says he's a little apprehensive because he feels like Dr. Francois, the older gentleman who used to counsel them and then was counseling them separate, he feels like he was just one-sided. He kind of felt like he agreed more with Melody than him. I mean, most people will agree with, you know, right over wrong, but if he feels like somebody is disagreeing with him, he feels like they're against him. And he also said that Dr. Francis was a little bit unrelatable because he was in a happy marriage and apparently didn't go through nothing. So he didn't really see how he could benefit from talking to a man who, I guess, never cheated on his wife. So, anyway, the counselor, you know, they come in, they have their pleasantries, and she jumps right into it. She is asking, you know, how are the kids? Martell just lies, tells her, oh, they're fine. Oh, they're doing really well. They're fine. And so Melody says they're not fine. Her, you know, her story is completely different than his. She says, you know, little Martell has resentment for his dad for the way he did his mom. You know, he's seen Melody crying and upset, and that has made him feel some kind of way about his dad. One of the babies writing a song about why you break my heart and all this other stuff, and one of them has just really like become like reserved and quiet, and like she doesn't really know her place in the world anymore. You know, it was just like little stuff that she has taken the time to observe rather than telling herself that everything is fine. And Martell, he does listen, and they then talk about the visitation, because that's Melody's main concern. How do we stick to the visitation? And Martell basically says, you know, he's not really working as much. He suffered some hits since the divorce, and basically he's not in the financial condition that he was once in to where he can get the kids all the time, you know. And so that does make Melody a little sad, because like she said, we were together 14 years, and unless you are just some kind of heartless, you know, crazy person, if you see that person hurting, it's gonna hurt you. It's gonna hurt you too in some way if you got a heart. But at the same time, she kind of tries, because he gets a little emotional also, and he is trying to talk and can't talk. So she tries to console him, and she puts her hand like on his shoulder, and he kind of yanks back like, stop, you know, don't do that, you know, why are you doing that or whatever. And so she was just kind of like, okay, all right then, you know. But I don't know if it was just him feeling like less of a man because he was, you know, getting emotional or breaking down. But she basically tries to, you know, console him and make him feel a little better. And now we see them in the confessional and they argue, because they start talking, because she tells him, you know, you got to get up, you know, you got 5 kids that need you. And he gets pissed off because he feels like she shouldn't be bringing up the other child. You know, this is only about us and our children, and we shouldn't be talking about the 5th child. But like she said, you know, the 5th child is a part of the situation. And on the other side of the token, yeah, that situation, although that's like one of the reasons y'all aren't together anymore, he doesn't really have to bring that child up in this counseling session, because y'all not here about visitation for that child. We here to learn how to co-parent, you know, with our children. And so they I don't know, y'all, this is just nerve-wracking. But the counselor, I guess she did drop some jewels on them. She kind of told them, okay, when me and my ex were breaking up, I found out that he had fathered another child or had another child on the way, and basically she had to learn to live with it. And she was suggesting that at some point that Melody, you know, she's gonna have to learn to live with the situation also. But when they leave, you know, it was all, you know, fun and games. And then Martell decides to bring up the Chris situation, about how Chris approaching her about building homes, and how he was surprised that she had his back and said no. And so she was like, no, I didn't say no. I'm still considering it, but I did tell him he needed to talk to you about it. And so he got mad that she was considering it. And he tells her, well, you never built a house in your life. And she tells him, well, you never built a home in your life either. And he was like, oh, that's a lie, and blah, blah, blah. She was like, Martell, I never seen you lay 1 brick, pour 1 slab of concrete, or lay a single frame. And so he gets mad and walks off. Again, I don't know. I think Martell was just a face in the business. I think she did a lot of the work, and, you know, of course the builders or whatnot, but the actual, you know, builders and superintendents. But I don't think Martell really had like both hands in that thing. So it's crazy, but she's definitely considering it. And he got pissed off and left. And, you know, they argue. She throw up the peace sign. Peace, Martell hold again. And he walked off and left. And so that was where the episode ended. That was it, y'all. So if I did leave anything out, y'all know, leave it in the comments below. This episode was all right. It wasn't just as good as I thought it would be, but we'll be back next week for the next one. And y'all have a great rest of the weekend. I will see those of you who watch back for Raising Canaan and also Housewives of Potomac. Y'all have a great rest of the weekend if I don't see you again. And I'll see y'all in the next one. Bye.